Okay, hello everyone. So I want to do a quick video on the pollination of any cactus flower. And to better show the details, I'm going to use a dragon fruit, a Heliocerius flower, which is absolutely massive, to explain some of the anatomy of the flower, which if you are going to hand pollinate, it's good to know the anatomy. You have the petals here. These are the anthers with the pollen sacs right at the tip. This they call the pistil, but this is the stigma. And whenever you want to cross pollinate a flower, you need to get if it is self sterile, you need to get pollen from a different cactus that is compatible. The pollen has to be compatible with this cactus. So either this maybe another dragon fruit flower, cross it with this dragon fruit flower, and you have to put the pollen in the stigma, and this is the stigma here. And if you see closely, the stigma has a little hole in the middle. That's where the pollen has to go. The pollen will then work its way down this pistil, down to the ovaries of the flower, and that's where it will pollinate the flower, and then you will get fruit. So that's the gist of it. And so I'm just using this flower because it is such a huge flower, and you could see the stigma and you could see the hole. You could see the anthers there. And yeah, so that's why I wanted to make this quick video, just because this is my first dragon fruit flower of the season, and I have many more buds everywhere growing from these dragon fruit. I love dragon fruit. I have many varieties, but I also grow a lot of columnars and stenoserias. But look at these beautiful little buds. This one's called Lisa. But so when you see this flower, you can see the bees moving around that little, there's a stigma. So I already cross-pollinated a bunch of these flowers that I have. But I wanted to just let you guys know. Yeah, you wanna put, here's a close-up on the Querétaroensis flower. So here's the stigma. It's not as open as the dragon fruit flower, and it's a much smaller flower, but still the same gist. You can't, I think it'd be hard to see the hole of this one in the middle, but there is a hole in the middle, and you basically want to put pollen. You want to make sure this stigma here is not closed. Sometimes it'll be closed, so you want to make sure. Oh, my nails, everything's really dirty. Well, whatever. So you want to make sure the stigma is not closed like this. You want to make sure you play around with it so it's kind of open or dangling open, and then you could brush pollen onto it, which I did to this one earlier. But you can see the stigma right there, right? And this goes for any cactus flower. Every cactus flower is going to have a stigma, and you got to make sure it's open. And that's where you got to pollinate. That's where you got to put the pollen in order to set fruit. And let me show you another example here. So again, you got to get pollen into the middle of the stigma. Every stigma is going to look different. They're, different species. The stigma is going to look different. You saw the Querétaroensis one. Let me show you some other ones. I have it, Penioceria serpentinus, that is blooming right now. Beautiful flower, very fragrant. It is a beautiful flower. There's some bees are collecting pollen. Hummingbirds were around here collecting the nectar. Usually the nectar is inside the flower, like at the base. It's like a little sugar water. So you see the stigma on this one? It's right here. Same anatomy, you see, as like the dragon fruit, the Heliocereus. You have these petals, and you have these anthers. You see the pollen sacs right here. These are the anthers right here. These are, you know, the pollen sacs, they burst after a certain time, and they release all the pollen. They'll stay on there, the pollen will get everywhere, and the bees come and collect it. But, look at this. Here's the stigma. And I did play around with it, so it's a little straggly. And I did pollinate this with other cacti, hoping it sets fruit. These are a little more finicky to set fruit. The Pennicereus, you need some compatible pollen, other Pennicereus maybe, or I'm hoping the Querétaroensis will do the trick, because these both grow in Querétaro. This Pennicereus serpentinus is native to Querétaro and other regions nearby, near states, other states in Mexico. But this grows side by side by the Querétaroensis right there. These guys. So we'll see if this sets fruit. If not, I have 3 sources of this species. So hopefully in the next month or 2, I'll get flowers of all 3 of them blooming, so I could cross-pollinate them. Maybe I'll freeze some of that pollen. I think it's too late actually, but I have a lot of buds coming. So you saw the stigma on that. These I have not pollinated yet, but this is like an Aethiops, Cereus Aethiops hybrid. It's kind of crazy. It's full of buds. But let's take a look at this flower, okay? So this flower, look at this flower. So from seeing the other flowers, you can see, you know, here are the petals. Here are the anthers. Look at these pollen sacs right there. And where's the stigma? You see it? Stigma is right here. You see how it's closed? So when you want, if you wanted to cross pollinate this flower, don't just do this. Don't just do this and be like, oh, I touched the stigma, it's gonna set fruit now. No, you got to put the pollen inside the stigma. Remember how the other one had the dragon fruit? You know, I showed you how there's a little hole in the middle. So you could use the blunt end of the brush or something. Don't be afraid. Play with the stigma. Open it up. Open up that shit. Open up that stigma. And there's a hole right there. You see it? So when you pollinate this, you want to get the pollen inside that stigma. I actually don't have I only have one hand. But yeah, you want to open up the stigma. You see, there's a hole right there. And you want to brush that part right there. You want to brush it right there. I don't have a... Yeah, that's not good leverage here. But yeah, I only have one hand here. But you understand, right? You could hold that, and then with this one, you brush the pollen that you have onto that. And that's how you set fruit. The reason you wouldn't get fruit is if you use pollen that is not compatible with your cactus, or if your cactus is self-sterile and you try using pollen from a clone, which means both the cuttings. Let's say here's an example. So let's say these 2 cacti right here, these 2 are clones, and they are. My friends gave me 2 cuttings from his mother plant. So they are the exact same. They're clones. So if this one is self-sterile, well, this came from the same mother plant. They're the exact same plant. They're clones. That's the term that's used broadly. So if you get flowers here and flowers here, you cannot cross-pollinate them if they are self-sterile, which I believe this Trichoceres spatchianus, it is self-sterile. And let's take a look at the flower. It is very much not afraid of the bees. It is very much not. Hold on, let me move this cactus out of the way. 1 second. So we can take a better look at the flower here. Okay, so you can see the bees are going apeshit over this pollen. And just like the dragon fruit flower, so the petals, the anthers, and look at that. Big giant stigma. Not as big as the dragon fruit. And the pistil, look, it's kind of skinny. But same thing. You want to get pollen into the middle of the stigma. And for something this big, a lot of people do this. It's kind of funny, but I mean, you're doing what has to be done. There's people who put pollen right in the middle, and you see how it's sideways? They will pick up the stigma and tap it. They're trying to help ensure that the pollen works its way down to the ovary, the ovaries of the bud here, the ovaries of the flower, so that it ensures fruit. So yeah, guys, you don't have to hand pollinate your flowers. You can hope a bee will do it, or the bees. You know, if you, the only problem is if you have this plant, this Trichoceres here, and you have another Trichoceres way in the backyard, for you to ensure fruit, the bees would have to go to a Trichoceres that's compatible, it has compatible pollen with this one. A bee would have to visit that flower, either from one of your neighbors or nearby. Bees could fly a few miles, and they visit a lot of flowers, so they would have to visit a different compatible pollen, something that's compatible with this, or hopefully the one you have in the backyard. If the you have a flower blooming. And then it would have to come here to collect pollen. And then pollen would have to fly around. He would have to let go of some pollen. And pollen would be falling off his like little hairs. Because they have like little hairs. And they have body pollen all over their body. And if a little bit of pollen goes into the stigma, that's when you set fruit. But to ensure fruit, since these are small cacti and I could reach the flower, look, this flower is down here. So because of that, and if I'm home, I will hand pollinate, or if you want to say brush pollinate, but I will pollinate the flowers myself. I hand pollinated these flowers. You can see that I have set a lot of fruit here. And I'm not sure if this Trichoceres spatchianus is a self-fertile, but I think it is self-sterile. And previously I crossed it with this grandiflorus. This is a Trichoceres grandiflorus right here. And you see, I didn't hand pollinate these, and they did not set fruit. Look at this. These did not set fruit. This one did not set fruit. This one did. This one did also. And I did hand pollinate these. This one I did not hand pollinate. This one I did not. But let me knock off all of these. I did not cross pollinate these. So I did not cross pollinate this one. I'm certain. But it did set fruit. How did it set fruit on its own? Well, the bees did what they had to do. So the bees probably got on maybe on one of these flowers, and they landed here, and they got pollen into the stigma, and it set fruit. So yeah, guys, this goes for all flowers. Just study your flowers when you especially if you're a Stenocereus collector, like a diehard like me, study the big flowers so you could easily see the whole anatomy in a larger scale. You see, where's the stigma? It's right here, and it's open. Look at it; it's open. So don't be afraid when you see different types of flowers. They, in the cacti world, they will all have a stigma, and the pollen sacs right there, and you can cross-pollinate them to ensure fruit. I can't show you a bunch of different flowers. This is a columnar here. Look at this flower. See what's yellow in there? Look at the yellow. Try to focus here. See the yellow thing on top? That's a stigma. It's just kind of covered. But that's a stigma right there. It's kind of sticks out of the flower. It's kind of closed, but play around with it. If you had two different species of this or some compatible pollen with this cleistocactus, you could cross it to get fruit. I don't have that many cleistocactus. I have this one, which, yeah, I'm hoping maybe I could try to cross them, but I don't know if they're compatible. Anyways, guys, that was just a quick video. That's it for today. Cheers, guys. Wait a second. Let me check here really quick if I have a flower here I could show you guys. Okay, yeah, I do. Look at this one. This is a baby cactus. Look at this little cactus. Let me, the flower is still a little closed. Let me try to open it so you can see. So, look at inside the flower. You see that? Let me try to open it. I might beat up the flower, but it's okay. Okay. I'm bending back this petal so you can see the inside of the flower. Wood is right in the middle of the flower. That's a stigma, and it has a big hole. You see that? That has a big hole right there, that stigma. You can play with it, open it a little more, but I mean, the hole's right there. The hole, you can see it. That's crazy. That's a really big hole right there. So to ensure fruit, you have to cross-pollinate this. This is a self-sterile, I believe. So yeah, all flowers, you know, they have same anatomy for cacti. They will have a stigma, which has to be pollinated. Anyways, guys, here's a unique flower of this really weird flower. It's not. This is a succulent, not a flower, not a regular cactus. So the flowers are different, you know. But for cacti, they're all going to have a stigma too that needs to be pollinated. Anyways, guys, that's all. Cheers.